And start streaming. Alright. And we are on. Alright, so hello everyone. Welcome to Baller's Paradise. I am one of your hosts, Alex Arbogast, along with my good co host, Mac Gilbert. Mac, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Boy, it's been quite a while, but I am sure happy to be back here on Baller's Paradise with you. I know a lot has changed in our lives in the last couple years, and so has this podcast changed. We're actually going to be changing the name from Baller's Paradise to Ballers and Busters because, as Alex mentioned in his previous episode, he has come up with a new hobby since in the last couple of years, which is ghost hunting. So this podcast is now going to reflect on both basketball and ghost hunting. But since earlier in the last episode, Alex has talked about ghost hunting, we're going to talk about basketball in this episode. Um, so take it away, Alex.
Definitely. So, I'm actually going to try to use these headphones because why not? I know that we just started recording and just started streaming on Twitch, actually. But I don't think I'm going to necessarily. No, I'm going to try a different look for the moment. So let's just go ahead and start discussing the draft, Mac. I think this is going to be a very big focal point of this year. We are just going to discuss the first three picks of the draft. So we're going to start with obviously the generational talent, the number one overall pick, Victor Wembanyama from San Antonio. He got drafted by the Spurs. He is 24 years old. He is from the Chesnay, France, and he came from the Metropolitans 92 of the French Betclic Elite League. He was obviously the 2023 number one overall pick. 7'4", 209 pounds. From the stats that I could find, he averaged 21.9 points per game, 10.3 rebounds per game, 2.4 assists per game, 47% from the field, 29% from three, and 83% from the free throw line. The only accolades that I could find for Victor Wembanyama are 2 silver medals for the under-19 French national team. So, Mac, I think I'm going to have you take it first. So tell me what you think of Victor Wembanyama, what he's going to do for San Antonio, and just give me your overall feedback on what you think he's going to do for this franchise.
I think he is he's a generational talent for sure. I mean, I've said it before. I think there are 4 stars in today's game that came out in the last 5 years that I think are generational talents or have potential to be. Those 4 are Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, Zion Williamson, and now Victor Wembanyama. I'm not saying they will all be, but those 4 in the next 5 years could be your face of the NBA, really. And I think the best place for him to go was San Antonio because they have a top 3 coach of all time. Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, and then Greg Popovich is the third best coach in my opinion. I think he has had that team competitive every year for the last couple years, but I feel like they've always come up short a little bit. They've never really quite been able to get over the mark since Kawhi Leonard left in 2019. But now I think to tank and get the worst record this year, it's worth it to get a player like Victor Wembanyama, who I think with all those Spurs legends that they have there, can help lead this team back to another title in the next 5 years. And as you saw, Greg Popovich signed a 5-year coaching extension. If Wembanyama gets Greg Popovich another championship in the 2020s, Greg Popovich will become the first coach in NBA history to win an NBA title in 4 different decades.
Yeah, that is definitely true on that statement. I know we were talking the other day about Steve Kerr, obviously winning a title as a player and a coach in 4 different decades, but it makes a different takes a different perspective when you're just only coaching instead of being a player and a coach, like we were talking about the other day. Victor Wembanyama to me is very, very raw prospect. He's a very raw prospect. He has an unlimited amount of potential. I know that we saw, or at least from what I saw from the two summer league games from him, obviously he didn't have the greatest um, first summer league game. It was a very poor shooting night for him. Didn't score a lot, but in the second game he bounced back, having a double double and looking more comfortable out there on the floor. He's just such a raw prospect, is what he is. He's a very raw prospect. He's able to. What's the word I'm looking for? He's such a raw prospect in the fact that he will be able to make an impact immediately for the organization, but it's going to come down to how he's going to be able to combine the package and be better, if you will, in that sense, in the fact that, wow, I just keep losing my train of thought today. Holy moly. Holy moly. Don't know what's going on. But with Victor, it's going to come down to the skill set and how he's going to be mentored. That's what I was going to say. Because, like you mentioned, he's got all those great San Antonio legends. You got Tim Duncan, you got David Robinson, two guys that played the position that he's then in power forward. You have Ginobili, you have Parker. Parker's French. He was on the French national team. And then some people even say Sean Elliott to a degree. I could get that. Honestly, I could get that. Sean Elliott was a pretty good San Antonio Spur. Excuse me. So you've got five guys that are really great in that Spurs organization with mentoring and Pop, one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game of basketball, in my humble opinion. So he's going to be getting a lot of knowledge, a lot of great skills to add to his repertoire. That's already a pretty decent skill set defensively and offensively. You know, people have compared Victor to Kevin Durant in the sense of the way how he dribbles the basketball, how he can shoot, just his demeanor on the floor, which I can kind of see that. But that's all going to come down to, like I said already, how he's going to be able to combine his skill set to be the player that a lot of people assume he's going to be, a generational talent like a Michael Jordan, like potentially a Zion Williamson maybe. You know, I still have hopes for Zion. You could say like LeBron, but
Well, you actually are saying LeBron. Congratulations.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, yeah, whatever. But look, I am excited to see what Victor comes up with. I'm going to have very high hopes for the young man because I think he's like you say, he's the perfect player for San Antonio. You know, I don't want to say that they've been terrible. They just haven't been competitive in the last couple of years. They've struggled, and he's the perfect guy to turn this franchise around with the mentorship, the coaching, and he's going to be, obviously the number one option for this team. So I'm excited to see what happens. But now let's discuss the number 2 pick in the draft, the Charlotte Hornets pick, Brandon Miller. His lone season in Alabama, 21 years of age, the 2023 number 2 overall pick, 6'9", 200 pounds, averaged 18.8 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, with 2.1 assists per game, zero point 0.9 steals per game, zero point 0.9 blocks per game, pardon me. 43% from the field, 38.4% from 3, and 85.9% from the free throw line. Accolades include SEC Player of the Year, SEC Freshman of the Year, SEC Tournament MVP, Consensus All-American, and Mr. Basketball in the state of Tennessee. So, Mac, what do you think about Brandon Miller? You know, obviously this is a guy that's going to be very raw defensive prospect.
I like Brandon Miller. I think if Victor Wembanyama didn't come out this year, he would be your for sure number 1 pick. I actually think Brandon Miller, and it's actually hard for me to say this because, I think last year with the Magic getting Banchero number 1, to be honest, I actually think Banchero was a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't impressed with last year's draft class. Banchero, I think, like I said, I think he really surprised me this year. Like when he came in the NBA, he did a lot better than I really thought he would do his rookie year. But coming out of the draft this year, I think Brandon Miller could actually be better than Banchero. I think he could definitely be a little bit of a leader in Charlotte. Him and Lamelo Ball together. I mean, one being a forward, one being a guard. You could very easily see Charlotte go into the playoffs this year as an 8 seed team. I
I
mean,
mean,
I don't know. I still think they need to get a better coach though, but that's just me.
I mean, the way I see Brandon Miller, I think Brandon Miller is going to have a very big impact on this team. Obviously, I don't know if he's going to come in and start right away like Victor, but I will say that like I mentioned, he's a raw prospect, but he's a defensive raw prospect. He has a great wingspan. I think it's 8'9", if I remember correctly, maybe even shorter. I can't remember off the top of my head what his wingspan is, but it is a decent sized wingspan. He's very defensively raw. Obviously, you can see almost a block and a steal per game. His shooting numbers are pretty good or pretty decent for a rookie coming out of college for 1 year, 43, 38, and 86 respectively. Excuse me, being able to hit from the free throw line is going to be huge for them, obviously, because they weren't very good at the free throw line as a team last year. He's going to be able to come in and make a big impact on the defensive end with reading the schemes. He's great at reading schemes. He's great at keeping his eyes on the ball, making sure that he can keep his eye on his ball and his man and the ball, and get in the passing lanes, get deflections, and force turnovers, which is essentially what you want to do with a young team. You want to be able to force turnovers and go on the fast break and get easy open baskets. And he's going to be able to do that for them. Now, obviously, like you discussed, they could potentially be an 8th seed, but they're going to have to figure a lot of things out, unfortunately, with LaMelo and his injury history, how they're going to deal with their forward jam up, because they have Kelly Oubre Jr., they have Brandon Miller, and now they just recently re-signed Miles Bridges back after that domestic violence case. Came back from that. He signed a qualifying offer, and the contract extensions kind of fell through, so he just signed a qualifying offer. So you've got 3 decent, small forwards all fighting for a roster spot. They potentially may have to make a move to get a decent center. Probably, I think that's what they're missing, a center, because I know PJ Washington is a power forward. They really don't have a great center.
I know
at the moment.
we'll discuss this later. I think a decent center for them might be DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah, he might be.
I think for them, yes. I think Phoenix needs to get rid of him, though. I think Phoenix, because they could probably get a useful tool for him. But I think
absolutely.
Ayton would still help Charlotte out very easily.
Yeah, but that would have to be a 3-team trade, though. But again, we can discuss that later. That would have to be a 3-team trade for the Suns. So let's discuss the last pick, and then we'll move on to our next topic. Scoot Henderson, 3rd overall pick for the Portland Trailblazers. 19 years of age, he came from the NBA G League Ignite team. He's 6'2", 195-pound point guard. Stats for his second year in the G League were 17.6 points per game, 5.1 rebounds per game, 6.6 assists per game, 42.9% from the field, 27.5% from 3, and 76.4% from the free throw line.
This guy, I mean, like I said it before, not many people from the G League come into the NBA and they're really big stars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying everyone's a bust, and I don't think Scoot Henderson's going to be a bust at all. I don't. I think Scoot Henderson's going to be that guy. He's going to be that good player for the Portland Trailblazers in years to come. However, I don't think he's going to be like a Damian Lillard, a leader on that team. I think what's going to happen is Portland's going to have to tank a year or two and then like build some other guy in a year or two and then have Scoot Henderson to work off of is how I think Scoot Henderson's going to play off. It's hit or miss with this guy. I do not think he's Ben Simmons at all. I do not think he'll bust. I don't think he's Kwame Brown at all. Who I think is actually the biggest bust of all time because, let's be honest, you have Michael Jordan on your team and you still can't make it. but that's a subject for a different day. But yeah,
I mean, technically, Anthony Bennett is the biggest bust of all time. If you want to be completely honest with you, look, I get it. Look, I get it because you're a Cleveland homer, but at least Anthony Bennett had the legit skill set to be a number one pick. The injuries didn't pan out. Colin Brown just said, "Hey, I just accomplished something," and he didn't really have the skill set to be the number one overall pick. Like Colin Brown has flat out admitted that. Yeah, he got number one overall pick and then just said, "Heck with it, I'm not trying anymore." So, that's why I say, pump your brakes a little bit there. Kwame Brown, Greg Oden, Anthony Bennett, those are your top three busts of all time. Honestly, it's hard.
I don't even call Greg Oden a bust because if you look at the injuries with Greg Oden, it's kind of like Zion Williamson, basically.
Yeah, but I mean,
Oden had the talent to be a.
Yeah, you're right. He did have the talent to be a fantastic player for the Blazers, but again, yeah, there's a lot of people that call him a bust. So,
I mean, Blazers got cheated with both him and Brandon Roy with injuries.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of the Blazers, with Scoot Henderson, their star right now might be leaving in a trade, and that's Damian Lillard. And I think it also depends on if he stays in Portland. If he stays mentor Scoot, I think Scoot could have a much better career in the long run. But that actually leads us into our next topic. Dame's probably going to leave Portland.
Yeah, Damian Lillard has requested a trade out of Portland. He has made it known that his only destination is the Miami Heat. That's the only place that he wants to go. He does not have a no-trade clause. So there is a little bit of a issue with that because the Blazers technically don't have to trade him to the Heat. He doesn't have a no-trade clause, so he has made it known, obviously, that Miami's his preferred destination, but he has also made it known that if he goes to another team, he's going to be a very unhappy player and not, essentially just not play. They're just essentially trading for nothing. So, obviously, I know you mentioned how he's going to affect, Scoot Henderson. Hey, you know what? I'll start us off, Mac. I'll start us off. It's going to affect Scoot in a way that this guy's a rookie. He's coming in, trying to learn the hardest position in the NBA, which is the point guard position. You're having to learn offensive and defensive schemes. Yeah, you're learning how to run the offense, initiate the offense, being able to defend. I don't get me wrong. Scoot does possess the capabilities and the attributes to do that, but he's also raw in the sense that he does have stuff that he needs to work on. His 2-point shot is definitely not at the league average. I think the league average is like 33. It's 28 right now, respectively. His free throws aren't bad. That might be something he needs to work on, especially if he gets into late game situations. And one thing I know we discussed earlier is he has in my opinion, out of three of them, he's got the biggest make or break star potential. He could easily become the franchise cornerstone of this Blazers organization, or he could potentially become, a 6-man role player type of guy. Kind of quickly. That's kind of what I see out of him. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's smart. He's able to read pretty decently, but how's that going to transpire into an actual NBA organization and culture with the Blazers? Because the Blazers are hoping that he becomes their next, essentially, Damian Lillard. And with Dame making this extremely hard, he only wants to go to the Heat to play with Butler and Adebayo. That's already known. I've seen, reports on Bleacher Report and the score of the Heat offering just Tyler Hero and some first-round picks. That's not going to be enough. They're going to have to give up Kyle Lowry if they want Lillard. That's going to be the other piece. They're going to have to part with him.
But I don't know. I think the way Dame's taking it, yes. He's going to have to play where he plays. But at the same time, part of me feels sorry for him because, he was loyal loyal, very loyal to Portland, a lot longer than most people would have been.
Oh, absolutely,
There,
100%.
there are Cleveland people out there who think what he's doing is worse than what LeBron did. Not even close.
Okay, I'm not gonna really say my opinion on that one, but I mean that's just
But I'm just gonna say, like,
outlandish.
I'll say this: it's not even close because he has remained with this franchise for over 10 years. And he has said repeatedly he wants to be in Portland. But no, Portland does not build around him. And what do? They fire Terry Stotts and they trade C.J. McCollum in 1 year. Big mistake.
Yeah, and what they didn't even get that much back for him. I mean, Josh Hart only played about a season there, and then they shipped him off to New York. Like that was the big piece that they traded, and then and you're right. That's the biggest thing. The Portland front office has not built around him in the way they should have. You know,
And I'll be honest, I also think as a head coach, last year Chauncey Billups showed signs that he was not ready.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think Chauncey showed signs that he's still learning the game. I don't think that he's not ready. I think it's the fact that he's still learning how to coach in the NBA. Now, I will say this. I personally think Lillard's best chance was to win and when they were good was when they still had LaMarcus Aldridge and Robin Lopez, Wesley Matthews, Nicholas Batum. You know, that team, I think that was, in my opinion, I think that was his best chance to win a title because you had guys that were.
Was that the year they took Golden State to Game 7 in the conference finals?
That might have been. I can't remember.
God, that was such a good series too.
But that team was an amazing team. They had guys that weren't necessarily superstars, except for Lillard and Aldridge. But you had kind of like a mix of an 04 Pistons team in the sense that the other guys just stepped up. There wasn't like essentially one guy that had to do everything. You could even say this was like a Russell KD thing, in the 2012 finals potentially, but I believe it was more role players stepping up to become very decent players in the NBA, like Wesley Matthews, Batum, and Robin Lopez. So it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out for Damian Lillard. I do think he's going to get traded, whether or not it's to the Heat. Possibly. I mean, I do see it, but again, they're going to have to get.
You just hope it's not to the Lakers.
Well, he's not getting traded to Lakers. There's no question. I mean, they got Gabe Vincent there. They still have D'Angelo Russell, so obviously they're not going for Damian Lillard. Plus, they don't have the draft capital that Portland wants to get back for him because once he's gone, it's going to be a rebuilding team. Obviously, the rebuilding team needs draft capital, and they don't have that anymore. They don't have the picks that Portland wants to get a star like that. They barely have enough to get anybody. They have to trade away so many players to, it's like Kyrie. They barely had enough to get him, and they couldn't afford to get him. They couldn't do a sign and trade with Dallas. So that's why you would never see him going to the Lakers because I love how all these rumors start out with, oh, this guy's going to the Lakers, this guy's going to the Lakers, this guy's going to play with LeBron, this guy's going to play. No, stop. Okay? It's
not even LeBron's team anymore. It's Anthony Davis's team, technically.
That's not what the media says, but I mean.
The media still says it's LeBron's team, but you and I both know Anthony Davis brought that team back into the playoffs.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So let's get on to that next topic, which you were alluding to earlier when we were talking about Charlotte, and that was the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, they had a pretty big offseason this year. They traded away, they waived Chris Paul. No. Yeah. I can't remember if they waived him or they traded him. I think they traded Chris Paul to the Wizards, and the Wizards traded Chris Paul to the Warriors, which we'll discuss after this. So he's no longer there. Oh, duh. Why am I stupid? They traded Chris Paul to the Wizards because they got Bradley Beal. That's dirt. So Paul for Beal got swapped. So now it's Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal on the same team with DeAndre Ayton. They also just signed Bol as well. They traded away Cameron Payne to the Spurs for draft capital for some reason. So now the team does not have a point guard at all. Rumor has it that Bradley Beal's going to take over the point guard duties going into the training camp. Um, and obviously they are going to be one of the favorites for the title this year. But I'm gonna take this one, Mac, if you're okay, because since you know Katie's my
Take
favorite
it away.
player. Like it's,
It's,
I,
it's,
I'm gonna
he's your
say
favorite player. Take it. Take it.
they are so top heavy. They're so top heavy, and they've got three guys that can get injuries kind of quickly. And I agree with you in the sense that they need to trade Ayton because he's just not panned out. Don't get me wrong; he's shown glimpses of what a first overall pick could be, should be, but he hasn't done it consistently enough. They need to trade him for a point guard and a center, or just a center, just a point guard or something, because like I think Bol would do perfectly fine at Phoenix as a starting center. So they realistically need to get a point guard because you can't have both your shooting guards take over your point guard responsibility because you're constantly going to have both of them out there on the court. Like that's just not going to work. And not only that, I believe that Devin Booker's better capable of initiating the offense than Bradley Beal is. Not saying Beal can't do it. I'm just saying that Devin Booker's been around Chris Paul and us. He's got the IQ. He's got, you know, the mentorship. He's got the ability to do so, essentially. You know, he has had the mentorship of Chris Paul being beside him to learn all those things as a point guard, as his secondary position. He's a 6'4" guard. You know, that's a perfect height for a combo guard. And that's honestly like in the fact that obviously you have one of the best players in the game, if not the best player, in Kevin Durant. I'm not gonna say that he is the best player because don't get me wrong, I'm a KD fan, but I don't think he's the best. I think he's one of the best players in the NBA right now. Honestly, top 5, definitely. But again, that's a different subject for a different day.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jokic and Giannis are the two best. That's just me.
No, I 100% agree with you. I do 100% agree.
Then
Those are
right
the first
now,
two names
I
that
don't-
pop in my head.
I
Besides
don't
Steph
know.
Curry.
A part of me even thinks Embiid might. You have to also put Embiid and Steph in there.
Well, yeah,
Um,
Embiid and Steph. I think
Then KD, I'll put. I'm sorry, I do think Steph is better than KD. But
Well, right now, I mean, yeah, I would see that right now. Absolutely, I'm not gonna sit here and disagree with you. But what do you think about the Suns? Obviously, I do see
think-
them potentially winning the title, but they
I
have to
don't
get
see
their
them
bench
winning
better.
the title unless they go out and get a point guard. They really, like you said, they really need to go out and get a point guard. I think Bol will be a decent center for them. I think they could easily get something for Ayton though. Yes, Ayton hasn't been consistent as a number 1 pick. He does, being a Cleveland homer. He reminds me of a football player I know that went number 1 and sometimes plays like garbage. Other days he wakes up feeling dangerous, but we don't need to mention him too much. But that's who Ayton really reminds me of a little bit, as someone who is inconsistent. But I think he still has some trade value where you could trade him and get like a decent point guard. You don't have to get a great one, but I'm trying to think of who would be. I mean, I don't know. Even though he gets hurt too much, even like
you
Alonzo,
don't need a guy that's going
even
to.
like Alonzo Ball. Alonzo
Well,
Ball. like
Lonzo's
that.
out for the whole year. Like Lonzo would be a great player. I agree with you. Lonzo would be great with them, but I think you need a guy. For me, the perfect guy for Phoenix would be a guy that's like a Patrick Beverly, a guy that's going to be scrappy on the
I was going to
defensive
say
end.
Patrick Beverly too,
Yeah,
but
Patrick Beverly is fantastic. He would be scrappy. He would be very good on the defensive end for them, be their defensive anchor, and be able to get the guys the ball that need it. And Durant could be the power forward. Well, you have Beal being, small forward and Booker being a shooting guard. But obviously, Patrick Beverly's signed with the 76ers, so you'd have to get him in a trade somehow. So you could go, again, these are just more trade ideas. You could go get Devontae Graham maybe.
I don't think James Harden would be the right pick at all.
Heck no. Well, they don't have the capital for James Harden. They trade away all their picks to get Bradley Beal. Like that's what I mean. Like it's back to the Lakers thing. You have to have that draft capital that Phoenix wants. Phoenix wants an all-star player back for James Harden. Or not Phoenix, Philly. Philly wants an all-star player back for James Harden. That's why there's a hard time getting these deals done. It's because players want to go to a specific place, but they don't understand that there's so many other pieces that go into a trade. Philly's not going to just make a trade just to make a trade. You can't just trade Harden for a second overall pick. That's just not going to work. Salaries are involved, bird rates are involved, draft capital's involved, players. There's so many different aspects when it comes to these trades. It's why you don't see the Harden and the Lillard trades getting done so quickly, because there's so many other factors. So,
Exactly.
I mean,
That's
like you said, Phoenix just needs a point guard. I agree with you 100%. The point guard is their biggest thing, and I would not be surprised if they get back a pretty decent player, because you could still base the trade off of potential, which is what a lot of people do, especially with free agency. They give the money based off of potential and how they played for a certain amount of time, and they're expecting you to continue that pace of play. So I'm thinking that that's what they might do with Ayton, but it's going to be such a hard thing. They could even go out and go get John Wall. John Wall would be fantastic for them.
I forgot about him. Yeah, you're right. Because John Wall, I mean, like I said, they don't need a big star. They just need someone who can just get the job done.
I mean, think of this. Russell Westbrook could have signed with Phoenix too, but he signed for a 2-year, $8 million deal for the Clippers. This is Russell Westbrook we're talking about. A guy.
He's not the Westbrook he used to be, but I still think, like you said, I think Westbrook could still help out a lot of teams. Anyway, but I also don't know.
I agree with you, though. He can help out a lot of teams. That's why I really like him staying with the Clippers. But look, John Wall would be the perfect candidate for the Suns. He doesn't have to shoot the ball. He's already got enough shooters on the team. He's
another
fantastic
guy I'm looking to roll the dice on who might be a perfect candidate.
Mm-hmm.
There is another guy who used to be a very good point guard in the league, but unfortunately injuries cut out to him. That's Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose went to Memphis. He is Memphis Grizzly.
Shocker, he's back where he went to college at.
Yeah, yep, he went back to Memphis. But I think the best candidate for Phoenix is John Wall. Like I said, all he has to do is pass the ball. He doesn't really have to shoot. He's still got some of his explosiveness back that he had when he was younger. He doesn't really need to, be a franchise player. He can just get the ball to Bradley Beal, who he's played with before and knows his strengths. But now he's also playing with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant as well. So he can be
more
the primary defender.
Him. I mean, and another guy, I don't even know if he's still in the league anymore. Silly me. Rajon Rondo, I think, could also be a decent candidate for this
I don't
job.
know if Rondo's necessarily still in the league. I think he might have retired. I don't know. Or he might not have officially retired, but that's another guy that I'm kind of surprised no one's gone after, too, because of how the league is played now. It's a more, threes, run and gun threes type of league, which, don't get me wrong, fun to watch. But it also gets monotonous every once in a while. I do have to say that. To me, the perfect time of basketball, just because, this is when I was watching, it was in the early 2010s. We still had guys like Dwight Howard that were still a very dominant post presence. I got Dwight, Al Jefferson. The game was, it was mixed in the sense that they got out on the break, but they also played a really decent half-court set. You don't see a lot of people doing that anymore. People are, teams are taking shots, 8-9 seconds into the shot clock and 24 seconds, and then immediately defensive rebound and try to push it. And that's just how that's played nowadays. That's not, to me, that's not really a great way to play. That's why you're seeing a lot of injuries nowadays, in my opinion, because people aren't slowing it down and there isn't a lot of, get the ball into the closest spot near the basket. That's why you see guys like Russell Westbrook, or not Russell Westbrook, but John Wall, Derrick Rose, just get injured so much, is because they have to play so fast nowadays. Now, because of all the fast switching muscles. But again, different subject for a different day. Let's talk about, like you were alluding to earlier, the Warriors.
Ooh,
They trade.
CP3 like
They traded Jordan Poole for Chris Paul. And now there's more. I don't know if you've been paying attention on social media, but now there's Jordan Poole's father's come out and said claims about Draymond Green, and Draymond's fired back, and Jordan Poole said something on his Instagram, and Draymond is already publicly admitting that he doesn't like Chris Paul. So there's that going on. I know we were discussing the other day about the tallest player on their team, which is their newest addition, Dario Saric. He's only 6'10". So, Mac, what do you think about the Warriors? You think they have a shot to get back into the, not only the playoffs, but the championship? I mean, Steph Curry has quoted saying that they feel more mature having Chris Paul now. So that is.
I think Chris Paul's definitely going to help them in a way because he is the point god, and you could definitely start him. You could move Steph to the shooting guard. That might be a little bit harder for Steph, being like because of how small he is, going from the pass and shoot. But I don't know. Steph Curry is. I think when it comes to pure shooting, Steph Curry's the best pure shooter the game's ever seen. That's
100%. 100% agree.
So I think he'll be all right there. And then you got Klay Thompson, who's also, I mean, they're called the Splash Brothers for a reason. Then you got Wiggins at your power forward, who I think has definitely matured a little bit the last couple years. I mean, he's definitely, since he's gone to the Warriors, played with Steve Kerr, he's definitely Steve Kerr, I feel like, pushed him to be a better player than what he was when he was with Minnesota.
Oh yeah, 100% agree.
Then Draymond. I mean,
Draymond.
I don't really like Draymond for many reasons, and it's not the reason you think I don't like him. But one thing I'll give the guy is he is an intimidator. Like, he does know how to get in people's heads and live rent free in their heads, like when he's playing them on the court.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him that. I just do not like his fuse. Like, he just has a short fuse, and it's not just the LeBron thing. He's done that on numerous occasions.
No, I 100% agree with you. He does have a short fuse.
But I will say this, though, being from Cleveland, we've talked about this before, I think LeBron knew that, and he was instigating him. He wanted him to fight back.
I would definitely agree.
And Draymond should not have given him that kind of power.
Yeah, no, we can talk about that later, for sure. I mean, you said it really well, honestly. I think that Steph is going to have to move to the tier guard, and Chris Paul's going to play point. I think he's in a great system where he doesn't have to score as much. He just has to facilitate, and we know that's his greatest strength is facilitating the ball. Steph's going to play off the ball, which he's done a lot since Steve Kerr's taken over coaching. So he's going to be very, very comfortable with that. I think that excuse me. I think that the offense is going to be more fluid. I think he's going to help out Jonathan Kuminga a lot more. I think he's going to help out the younger guys and get them into more comfortable situations. Because the baskets are going to be easier. Passes are going to be crisper. I think everybody's going to get along better. Honestly, obviously you could tell that Jordan Poole stirred up some stuff in the Warriors organization that they kept quiet, which I do have to give them big props for keeping that quiet. When TMZ leaked the video of Draymond punching Poole, obviously the media festered all over that, and they kept it as calm as they could. And then, obviously this year some more stuff has gotten out, but they're just keeping it cool, calm, and collected. That's an amazing thing to hear from the Warriors organization. It's just going to be such a big task for them, though, in the sense that it's going to be the same issues that they had last year with rebounding and defense. Those are going to be a very big thing. Obviously, Chris Paul's going to help on the defensive end as a point guard, as we all know that he's a very good interceptor and he's a great pickpocketer on the ball. But again, your tallest guy is 6'10" when you've got 7-footers and 6'11" guys playing center in the NBA. Don't get me wrong, Kevon Looney's a fantastic rebounder, but it's going to come down to, can they defend and can they succeed on the road? Because their road record was not very good last year, and it showed in the series against the Lakers. Even though it went to 7 games, they lost the majority of the road games in the playoffs. The Kings took them to 7 games. A very young and athletic team took them to the 7 games, which is a very, very big props for them. I was very happy for Sacramento to get into playoffs, but let alone take the defending champs to 7 games and having to make Steph drop 50 points on them in order just to win. Like, that was not only, it spoke more to me about the Warriors. It told me more about the Warriors than it did the Kings, because it showed me that this Warriors team is just trying to outscore you, and if they can't outscore you, they're going to lose the game. So they need to develop a very good defense this year. That's going to be the biggest thing for me.
And about Sacramento, how you mentioned that, I literally have always dogged Mike Brown, and I thought that would have been a terrible pickup when he first went there. He ends up going and winning Coach of the Year unanimously, and he deserved it.
Oh, yeah, he 100% deserved that unanimous coach. That was the first time in NBA history, too, by the way, where a coach won that unanimously.
When you talk about Sacramento, I think they have the most underrated player in the game today, and that's De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox has been such a great way, and it's funny that we're talking about the Warriors and the Kings again.
You loved him since he came into the league.
I did, because he's a very speedy point guard. He's a guy that has improved every year that he's been in the NBA. He's been very professional. He's been very candid. And it's funny that we're talking about them, because I saw this on Instagram, I think it was today. They both got drafted with the 7th pick. They both missed the playoffs in their first 4 seasons. And in their 5th year, they became an all-star. So they are having eerily weird, very similar weird starts to their careers, which is very good for Sacramento, because the guy continuously, like I said, is improving his game.
You said they. Who's the other player that you said they compared him to?
Steph.
They're
not comparing them in terms of skill set, but the fact that their careers have started very, very similar is just good for Sacramento. It's very good. But I know he's going to continue to improve day in and day out. He's just that type of player.
And that is the thing. I mean, like, look at what Steph's done. Like, the last eight years, he has been the best. I think he's accomplished more than any other player in the NBA the last 2014 on.
Oh, yeah, I would 100% agree. He has accomplished more. He's won all... Hold on, I'm trying to think. All 4 of his rings. Within that span, they've made the playoffs pretty much every year in that span, except for maybe 1 or 2 years.
Except for the 1 year where him and Clay were both hurt.
Where they were injured and they got Wiseman. Yeah, they traded him away last year. But... my gosh, like Steph Curry is probably right behind Magic Johnson, if not 3rd behind Oscar Robertson. As
if I were willing to
he's a top 3 point guard, arguably.
I'd start Steph Curry over Magic, and that takes a lot to say.
It does, and that's the thing. I would still keep Magic over Curry. I know Magic definitely doesn't shoot as well as Curry, but to me, it is the fact that he can do defense more than Steph. Not saying Steph's not a good defender by any means. Steph's a pretty decent defender, but Magic being 6'9" and playing defense the way he could and passing the ball, that to me is just a little bit more than Steph's scoring ability. Don't get me wrong, I love what Steph does, but whenever I construct a team, it's more of I want my point guard to defend and facilitate the offense. The scoring can be handled from my wings, and then I need my big men to rebound and block shots. That's how I construct my teams a lot of the times, and that's how I win a lot of games most of the time in 2K. But that's besides the point. We are going to get into some very fun topics. We're going to discuss 4 teams. We're going to put 2 and 2. So we're going to do the 96 Bulls or the 2016 Warriors. And then we're going to go the Prime Heat, which had Dwayne Wade, Bosh, and LeBron. those three against a prime Thunder team with Russell Westbrook, Harden, and Durant and Serge Ibaka. Even though he wasn't as prominent by any means, we still got to include him, obviously. So Mac, which one do you want to tackle first? Prime Heat versus Prime Thunder, or 96 Bulls versus the 16 Warriors? And reminder, folks, this is the Warriors team without Kevin Durant. This is not 16-17 Warriors. This is 15-16 Warriors, where they were 73-9, and these Bulls were 72-10 with a ring. So,
see, that is like I look to the 96 Bulls and 16 Warriors. Mm-hmm. I really think that I'm gonna go first. I think the 96 Bulls team was a better team, and I think they won a championship. But it's not only that, I think they would have won anyway. Because if you just look at that team as a whole, Jordan, Pippen, Rodman. I mean, they could all play defense better than anybody on that Warriors team could.
I mean,
minus Draymond maybe.
Well, Iguodala and Thompson weren't pushovers. I'm going to say that. They weren't pushovers on defense. I mean, they threw continuous bodies at LeBron, and they did slow him down to a degree, but, I mean, you are right in the sense that Jordan and Pippen alone.
I think Michael Jordan could take Klay Thompson, though, at that number 2 position.
You're 100% right. Jordan would easily
Scottie Pippen could take down anybody. Like, I think he could take down Iggy defensively.
Well, yeah, Iguodala wasn't a scorer, really, except in, Philly and Denver, but, I mean... Iguodala's main tasks on that team were to defend LeBron and slow him down.
And Draymond, with how good he was, it is tough to say because I do think Draymond being that good defensively, I don't know if he could take down Rodman, though. I don't think he could.
That's just my opinion, though. I mean, do you have anything else to say?
I think that's pretty much it. I think it's just that thing. It's just that basically. I think good defense could stop good shooting. That's why I really think that the 96 Bulls team were the better team. And
I know,
unfortunately, because they have the 73-9 record, too many people in Cleveland are so high on LeBron because he beat them.
Yeah, I know, but we're just talking about Bulls and Warriors. I mean, look, the Bulls have everybody pretty much covered. Stephen Clay, you got Jordan, you got Pippen. Jordan would obviously take Curry. Pippen would take Clay. Iguodala, he'll do what he needs to do. I can't remember if David Lee was on that team or not. I think he might have been, or he might have retired in 15. I can't remember off the top of my head. Bogut, I believe, was still there. Yeah, I think he did. I think Bogut was still there. I think he was injured, though. I mean, look, you got John Paxson and B.J. Armstrong. Decent point guards for them. They aren't. I don't want to say they're not anything special, but B.J. Armstrong's a shooter just like Steph, and Paxson was kind of more all-around defensive, facilitating, just get the ball to Jordan or Pippen. Jordan, obviously, come on, he's Michael Jordan. He does everything well. He has an all-around skill set defensively. By the way, he's the only player in the NBA in 1988 to win Defensive Player of the Year and Scoring Champion. That alone in itself is very impressive, to not only win the most points scored in the NBA, but also defend at the highest level in the same season. That to me is just incredible.
I didn't even know that stat existed, and I'm just now thinking wow, that is so impressive.
That's what I mean. To score the most points in the NBA, and then defend at the highest level in the NBA in that era is, I can't even fathom that, honestly. Then we know Scottie Pippen, how well of a defender he is. Kind of like an Andre Iguodala, but he did score when he needed to. I think he did average 23. He did average 20 points per game when Michael Jordan was out for those 2 seasons playing baseball. Dennis Rodman, he's Dennis Rodman. He's going to rebound the ball. He's going to talk smack. He's going to get in your head, and him and Draymond are just going to go at it. I would say they cancel each other out, but Draymond is not as good as Rodman. I just want to make that very clear. Draymond's definitely a better passer than Rodman, for sure. But I think Rodman is just better overall defensively. In rebounding, for sure. He made that a science. I remember I was watching a Jordan interview, of Dennis Rodman talking to him exactly about rebounding, and he was breaking it down to a science to where he would look at exactly how the ball was rotating whenever the shot was going up, and he would be able to pinpoint exactly where to go to get the rebound. And not only that, but he would also watch it bounce off the rim or the backboard and go for it from there too. So the fact that this man, who was known for partying a lot and being that defensive stopper, he broke down rebounding to an exact science. And I think that is very impressive to just notice where the ball is going based off of the rotation. I thought that was impressive.
Dude, the man was a genius on the basketball court. He really was.
He was.
There's actually a video about him, like with all the partying and stuff. I mean, Michael Jordan even said, no matter how much he partied, he could get on that basketball court that day, and he would be right there.
Yeah, he would be 100%. He's got an extremely good work ethic. But again, back to this comparison, you have Luke Longley, and I think Bill Cartwright was still on the team. Those guys could handle Bogut pretty well, I think. Bogut's nothing too crazy. Grand first overall pick that just didn't turn out for Milwaukee. He had a lot of injuries, unfortunately, but I will say that he had a very solid NBA career, and he did end up getting a ring from it. Andrew Bogut is one of those underrated players, in my opinion.
A lot of those guys. I don't know, was Steve Kerr on that team or no?
I think Kerr might have actually been on that team. It wasn't B.J. Armstrong. I think it was Kerr, if I remember correctly.
Because I can't remember if Paxton and Kerr were on the team at the
I
same
can't
time.
remember off the top of my head, honestly. I know Kerr was on there. It's good that you said that because I forgot about him, and then when you said him, I'm like, oh yeah, he was on that team.
So Steve Kerr would basically be coaching against himself.
Yeah, he would be, but hey. So Mac, how many games and who wins? And who gets Finals MVP?
Ooh. I think it goes down to 6 games. Bulls win. Jordan gets Finals MVP.
Then we both agree then. 6 games. Jordan MVP. Bulls win. Excuse me. So let's get on to the final topic of today, and that is going to be the Prime Heat. And now we're only considering Prime Dwayne Wade, Prime LeBron, and Prime Chris Bosh. No, Tim Hardaway or Alonzo Mourning or Shaquille O'Neal. We're not considering any of those guys. It's just Wade, Bosh, and LeBron. And then we're doing the Prime Thunder with Russell Westbrook, Harden, and KD, with a little bit of Serge Ibaka mixed in there as well. So, Mac, a 7-game series with those guys, who would you have winning? And how many games, and who's getting Finals MVP, and just give me your little synopsis of how you would break that down between the two teams.
I think if you look at them all in their prime, I think the Thunder will win in Game 7. Because Prime Westbrook was like, he had to have been, he broke the record for most triple-doubles in his prime. May I say so? I really feel like he, just having him alone, at the point guard, that would be a huge threat. And he was a two-way player too. He could play some defense back in his day. Harden really couldn't, but boy, was Harden an explosive monster. Yes, I think Dwayne Wade could stop him to a degree, but I also think that Harden being the explosive monster he was, he wouldn't be able to stop him fully. Bosh could take on Ibaka, I feel like, in that sense, but there's one big thing, and this is where I think it will pay off. With how much I like LeBron, yes, LeBron has more accolades than Kevin Durant, but Durant is consistently a better defensive player and a better shooter. Durant could take LeBron defensively, and because, let's be honest, LeBron has that tendency to only play defense when he wants to play defense.
Yeah, you could see that in the Mavs series, 100%.
You could definitely see it. There are times where he he purposely won't go up and guard the best guy.
Yeah,
Like, it
only
will
he really
probably
plays
be.
position. He still
I
does
mean,
that to
like,
this day.
and Durant is like a Harden. Like, he is dangerous from anywhere on the floor, pretty much. Like, he has. Like, I don't know. Like, I say Steph Curry's the best pure shooter, but I think, I mean, as an all around scorer, Kevin Durant is the best scorer of all time. And here's why. LeBron just broke the record this year. Don't you think Durant, KD would be like up to break his record if he didn't get cheated out of 2 seasons with injuries?
Oh yeah, 100%. He'd have at least 5,000 more points on his record on the total
And think of it
already.
this way: every year he misses almost a month with an injury.
Yeah, and that's the sad part. He was a really durable player before that Achilles injury, and that really kind of just shortened his career. So now where he's gotten injuries almost like you said every season, he's almost guaranteed to miss a
And,
month.
and even LeBron. I mean, LeBron's been durable most of his career, but I mean, I think the last 3 years, I mean, he's gradually getting less and less durable, and that I think is really going to affect the Lakers next year.
Oh, 100%. It's going to affect them. It's going to
AD
100%.
has never really been the most durable player.
No, never.
Since the minute he came into the NBA. And like I said, LeBron is gradually becoming less and less durable as he gets older.
Oh yeah, easily. Well, I 100% agree with you. It's going to go down to a 7-game series. I do have the Thunder winning. Did you say who got MVP for the series?
Oh, I didn't. I think Kevin Durant will get MVP.
Yeah, okay, then yeah, we're in agreement. So Katie would get MVP. So obviously, let's look at it this way: Mario Chalmers versus Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook would take that matchup easily, regardless if you put Mario Chalmers on prime Westbrook or prime Harden. Chalmers isn't going to stand a chance against either of those guys, especially Russell Westbrook, because like you said, he broke the all-time record for triple doubles. He has the most, and he averaged, oh gosh, a triple double for at least 2 or 3 seasons in the NBA, which is impressive in itself. May I remind you? He's played an incredible amount of minutes. He's led OKC to the playoffs. Granted, they were only in the first round, majority of the seasons before they got Paul George, but he was the guy in the NBA who was like, a lot of people were thinking, this guy's easily a top 5 player because of what he's doing on the floor. Not only is he scoring efficiently, he was rebounding, he was assisting, stealing, everything. If you get that kind of Russell Westbrook leading your team on a nightly basis, you're guaranteed to win games. You're just guaranteed to win games, especially with a guy like prime James Harden that could be your backup point guard leading the offense when Russ is on the bench. Like you said earlier, a guy that could explode and get 60 almost any game that he wanted to. That's just who James Harden was. He was a guy that was a walking double-double with 16 and 15 assists or 50 points and 20 assists or whatever you want to say. Harden was that guy that could just go off in a second. And Harden and Dwayne Wade, that would be a really great matchup. Honestly, I think Dwayne Wade would take that matchup just based on
Dwayne Wade was definitely a better defender.
Yeah, he was definitely a better defender. Yeah, he was a better defender, and he is also most blocks by a guard in NBA history too. So he's a very good defensive player in that aspect of the game. He would be able to slow down Harden or Westbrook, but
you hit the nail right in the head, but he wouldn't be able to stop Harden.
He wouldn't be able to stop them, but I will say this: if he had to choose between taking Harden or Westbrook, I think he would have to take Westbrook, just because of the sheer speed that he played with, how he's able to get into the lane. Chalmers would have to guard Harden, but you would have to give up so many more things with Russell Westbrook than you would with a prime James Harden. That's just my opinion. Because I know both those guys are great slashers, but at the end of the day, Russell can rebound and defend. Harden can really only score and pass. So, Russell has many other attributes. Now we'll get into the big juicy one, LeBron versus Kevin Durant. I mean, I love the analogy that you did. Both of them are all-time great players. but Durant's just a better scorer. He's able to dribble the ball. He's able to create his own space, fade away. He's a mid range assassin. He can hit the three in your face, drive the lane. His passing isn't bad by any means. He's a better defender, not necessarily like in the post or on the ball, but at least he'll get after it more than what LeBron will. And he's great in the passing lanes, getting deflections and steals that way as well.
LeBron, the one thing LeBron's better at is playmaking. His playmaking, I still think.
100%. Yeah, LeBron has great playmaking. Yeah, he's also built more like a football player, so he doesn't have a great shot yet. In my opinion, he still didn't really have that great of a shot. Wasn't consistent enough for me. So you could back off of him if you want to, and he could shoot. If he's feeling it, great. If not, then you're in for an easy night. But Durant, you can't leave at all. He'll drain a shot in your face, even if you're like right here on him. You know what I mean? With LeBron, you don't have to be. You could just be a foot away, and he's not going to consistently make a
Like
shot.
I said about LeBron's defense, he can play defense. He chooses not to.
Exactly. And then obviously Chris Bosh versus Serge Ibaka. Granted, Chris Bosh is going to take that matchup pretty well. His defense isn't. No, it's definitely not bad. It's pretty good. Honestly, I know Ibaka's defense is better, but Bosh outranks him on offense in so many ways. To pick and pop, he can fade off his screen. He can do a slip. He can pick and roll. He can get in the post. He can just do a face-up jump shot. He's got so many tools to his arsenal, and he was a backbone for their defense too. So he was a good enough defender to lead their defense, just like Ibaka was for the Thunder. Good enough to lead their defense. Bosh was kind of that for the Heat. And then the centers really don't have much. You got Joel Anthony versus Kendrick Perkins. Those two. I mean, if you're giving me a choice, I'm going to take Kendrick Perkins over Joel Anthony, but that's just my opinion. So,
I would too. But oh my God, I'm not a fan of Kendrick Perkins, and even as a talker, when he says stuff that makes no sense sometimes.
No, him working for ESPN has been a huge disappointment with his outlandish takes. To be honest with you, he's a guy that shouldn't be commentating, and I will just leave it at that. But yeah. Well, Mac, it looks like that is the end of our second episode on the season for Ballers Paradise or Ballers and Busters. We will try to get a new logo out here soon, hopefully. We'll try and dabble in the arts of graphic design, potentially. So we will be doing that. Mac, it was a pleasure on the show today. I really enjoyed it.
I really enjoyed being on here. It's great to be back.
Absolutely.
I haven't been on podcasting forever, so.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'm excited to be doing this again. We will be recording an episode on Tuesday and Thursday next week. Hopefully, things will change. I know today we're recording on Friday, but we'll hopefully get back to a set schedule here pretty soon. I know that I've got some things going on in my personal life I need to get situated. I know you got some stuff that we'll just have to work it out and get stuff going.
Sounds good. Well, it was great being here today. For those just tuning in, this is Alex Arbogast and Matt Gilbert saying good night, everybody, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Yep, have a great night, guys. Thank you for listening. As always, post Q&A and a poll for this episode. Make sure that you guys, if you guys want to follow us on social media, you're more than welcome to. But other than that, guys, have a great night, and we'll see you next episode. Have a good one.